Okay, I can do it. I can undo it. Yes, sir.
Let me transfer the money to you so that you can not do it.
Okay, no problem. Problem. No problem. Yeah.
So, Chairman, good morning.
Oh, good morning, madam. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. So I've made you the host now, so you can make others co-host.
Okay, okay. What about you? Won't you be available fully? You are the chairman of this meeting. Yeah.
Okay, so I've made you the host now.
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So we follow the timetable. I mean the agenda. Have we got our profile already?
Yeah, I'll be available. I'll be available.
Okay,
It's
good.
just based epileptic network. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, what of okay, she's there already. Prof, just admitted her now.
Yeah, I forwarded the citation to Barrister Bangoshe. Yeah,
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Professor Malin also, she's about to join. I saw her.
Yeah,
I'll
forward it to the platform. Barrister Bangoshe that is supposed to read that.
Okay, please tell the other member to be on so I can start as quickly as possible without wasting time.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
I'll sign out now. Give me some steps. I'll be back.
I welcome Dr. Sophia Adeyeye to this webinar. Dr. Sophia Adeyeye is the chairperson of the Nigerian Library Association, NLA. How are you, ma? You can check your microphone to unmute.
Dr. Alunge, Dr. John,
how are you?
I'm good. And you?
I'm fine. How's life in the US?
We thank God. How is it?
How's life in the US?
Fine. We're doing well. John Adebayo said he has to go on a trip, that you are the one that will prompt Professor Marin up, that you have access to her. Hello, Dr. Alunge.
Yeah, I've been chatting with her. She will join us.
Okay. Thank you. Isaac, how are you coping with Netherlands? When are you going back home?
Sorry, please. Um, uh, Netherlands is fine. Dr. Sophia, who is Zoom user? Who uses Zoom user? Dr. Sophia, please, you can make me a host of this meeting. Thank you.
Hi, John.
Hello, Dr. Merlin. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah. I'm fine. You're welcome.
Good morning, Dr. Marin.
Hi, Sophia. How are you?
I'm good. And you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for creating time to be with us today.
No, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
You'll be made an host, given a right to share your screen very soon, Dr. Merlin. Thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you so much.
Dr. Merlin, you are now a co-host. Where the time comes, you will be able to share your screen.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Barrister Bangushe, please, can you make me a host? You just have the host right. Just transfer the host right to me. So this is 10 o'clock. This meeting, this webinar will start soon. The starting time is 10. We have viewers watching us on YouTube. At least majority of our viewers are on YouTube anyway. And some other people will be joining us here. So Barrister Bangushe, there's an error. I just made you host. So just click on my name and give me host right again so that I can do other things.
Dr. Luga, I believe that has been done already.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, good morning, everyone. I want to encourage all the co-hosts, especially Barrister Bamigoshe, Dr. Adeyeye, to keep admitting people into the meeting. You have right to admit people. Dr. Sophia Adeyeye, Barrister Bamigoshe, help us to keep admitting people into this meeting. And also Dr. Oluwabumi Bakare. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. We want to say good morning to you. And we welcome you to today's webinar. This is a webinar that is titled, we'll be looking at the title, Building Sustainable LIS Curriculum, Strategies for Balancing Traditional Skills and Emerging Trends. So, and we have our speaker, she's already here in the meeting, Professor Malin from South Africa. When the time comes, we'll introduce Prof properly. So once again, I want to welcome everyone. As I said, we have viewers everywhere. We have viewers on Zoom here, and also we have many people, young people, students, that are watching us on YouTube. We have agenda, which I'm going to put on the chat. So we have agenda of this meeting. So the first agenda is to just tell you what are the things we need to do here. This is a webinar, and you'll be given room to ask questions. And also the chat room also is open, it's not closed. You can, on the chat room, you can start introducing yourself, telling us where you are joining us from, your name, what you do, and also the location where you are joining this webinar from. So we'd like to have, we can interact on the chat room. And again, if you are not speaking, we encourage you to mute your microphone. You know, we don't want to mute everybody, but if things are not working well, we will mute everybody. You know, just mute your microphone. You can, if you like, you can open your video so I can see your face. But if you know that your internet is not good, you can decide not to do that. So we welcome everyone to this meeting once again. Now I'm going to invite our chairperson, the chairperson of the Nigerian Library Association, Oyo State Chapter, in person of Dr. Sophia Adeyeye, to welcome us officially to this webinar. Over to you, Dr. Sophia Adeyeye.
Good morning, all. Thank you for creating time to attend this first webinar of a kind. Thank you, Dr. Alunge. And I want to sincerely welcome everybody to this webinar. And I think this is a time for us to have a rethink about our curriculum as it affects LIS students in Nigeria. Because we all know that as stakeholders, there is need for us to diligently look at the curriculum and see the way as it affects us to become a successful learner in case of the student, a effective communicator within the society, and also a confident person within our field. This is a time where we have a lot of issues within our curriculum, and we think our students are confused. So on this note, I want to welcome Professor Malin from South Africa and every other person joining us for this webinar. It's a time to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Thank you, and looking forward to a wonderful time with Professor Malin. Thank you, everybody, and listen attentively. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sophia Adeyeye. Dr. Sophia Adeyeye, she's a lecturer with the LIS University. She's the head of the department. And apart from that, she's the leader or the chairperson of this association, the Nigerian Library Association, your state chapter. Thank you for welcoming Professor Malin from South Africa. Now, I'm going to invite the chairperson because YLP, Young Liberian Professional Association or group, is a section or is a committee headed by Dr. Oluwabumi Bakari. You know, they are the one organizing this meeting on behalf of the Nigerian Library Association or your state chapter. I hereby over to you, Dr. Oluwabumi Bakari.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alunge. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Thank you so much, Dr. Alunge, and I sincerely appreciate all members of the committee. It has been a successful journey working with this wonderful team. And I also appreciate our speaker, Professor Malin. It's an honor to have you here. And the idea of a Young Liberian Professional Forum came from the chairperson of NLA or your state chapter, so that we can carry our young Liberians, we can carry them along, knowing fully well that majority of them are not based in LIS. They went through other channels of disciplines before they decided to say, okay, let me now come to LIS, so that we can use this the opportunity to really entreat them within the tenet of library and information science, and so that they can get the requisite skill that will make them to be able to fit into the dictates of contemporary library and information science. So I believe that with our topic of today, on that Professor Malin's curriculum, both within the Nigerian space, because she has a copy of that, and also what is obtained globally. Thank you so much. Looking forward to an intellectually rewarding time. Thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Lunge.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oluwabumi Bakari, for this short introduction and detailed. You know, Oluwabumi Bakari is a lecturer also with LIS University. She's a scholar trained in South Africa, where Professor Melin is coming from. So well-trained library educator. So now we are going to move on to the next thing on the agenda. We want to know more about our speaker of today. We want to know more. And before I go into that, please inform others who want to join us. We are also live on YouTube, and this meeting is recorded. Invite students, your mates, your professional colleagues to join this meeting. I know we have many people also watching us on YouTube. I want to know more about Professor Malin. I will hereby invite Barrister John Bamigoshe, who is the law librarian with Ajayi Crowther University in Oyo State, Nigeria, to tell us more about Professor Malin. Over to you, Barrister John Bamigoshe.
Thank you very much. I have the distinct honor and privilege to introduce our guest speaker. Professor Malin Hulmer is an astute information professional of international record, an associate professor from the prestigious University of Pretoria, South Africa. Professor Hulmer is an academic of note, an editor of, she's in the editorial board of Information Technology for Development, as an individual who is committed to development. She is an active member of the ASIS&T, where she currently serves on the board of the organization which she embarked upon from 2021 through 2023. She is also a steering committee member of the African Center of Excellence in Information Ethics. Professor Hulma has a research interest in areas revolving around information ethics, information communication for development. We are indeed very delighted and very honored to have Professor Hulma present this first webinar, which we believe will be of great interest and great advantage to our budding information professionals. So I have the distinct honor to indeed welcome her to deliver the lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Professor. Please note your questions. You can also drop your question on the chat room, as she's speaking. Mrs. Obo will be coordinating the question and answers later. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the wonderful welcome. It really is wonderful to be here. I just want to share my screen with you so we can start. I have adapted the title a little bit to harmonizing traditions and trends, crafting a sustainable LIS curriculum for the future. And this is something close to my heart, as development of information and library professionals are very close to my heart. And we are in a constantly changing environment. And this is something that we need to do nearly constantly, is look at our curriculum. So what I want to look at today is I'm going to spend a short time on a brief introduction. I then want to have a look at what is meant with traditional LIS curricula. And for that, we're going to have a look at the American Library Association and what they suggest traditional LIS curricula should be. I then went further and I had a look at the Lead City University in Ibadan at their B.Ed Library and Information Science curriculum to see what they actually are teaching the students. And that enabled me to make a brief comparison between the traditional LIS curricula as advised by ALA and then the current curriculum. We all know that IFLA has also very recently in 2022 provided some guidelines for professional library and information science education programs. So I also want to look at that and see how does it look with regard to the traditional curricula as well as what is being currently presented by the Lead City University. And that will then take us to the role of professional organizations, which I'm also very passionate about. And then we're going to end off with looking at some of the emerging technologies and trends and seeing where there is actually space in the curricula to make provision for this. So just as an introduction, we know that we live in a world that's characterized by rapid technological advancements, and this is an ever-changing landscape. And it's imperative for us as LIS professionals to be able to adapt and equip ourselves with all these tools. And it's also important not just to equip the lecturers, but the students that we are lecturing so that they can navigate this dynamic environment. We as LIS professionals play a crucial role in facilitating access to this information. We know what our role is in preserving cultural heritage for the future and fostering lifelong learning. And how can these roles that we play be seen in our current curricula? This landscape is currently changing, especially this last year. I'm sure you've seen the tremendous hype that there is about artificial intelligence, generative AI, programs such as ChatGPT that's now in our space and that we need to deal with. And we need to know about these changes in technology so that we can adapt our LIS curricula so that we are actually catering for the pressing demands of the future. Now, when we speak about traditional LIS curricula, it's very difficult to say exactly what we regard as traditional, because tradition is set in institutions. And we see that there's a great difference in various institutions' idea of a traditional criteria for this curricula. So if we look at the American Library Association in 2015, they had a document where they emphasized the following aspects that should be found in a traditional LIS curriculum. So the first one that we have there is information organization and management. We then have reference and information services. We have collection, development and management. We've got cataloging and metadata. We've got library management and administration, information ethics and intellectual freedom, research methods and information literacy, library technology and systems, archival studies and preservation, and then professional development and current issues. Now, I hope that everybody that is listening to us on YouTube and that is in the Zoom meeting, in their head, made a quick checklist of this ALA list and thought about your current curriculum in Nigeria. Although I'm just going to be looking at the one university's curriculum, you all come from various Nigerian universities, and you'll be able to see how does your curriculum compare to this, what is mentioned by the American Library Association. We cannot start thinking about including current trends and current emerging technologies if we don't have a look at our current curricula and first see what are the gaps in this curricula. Once we've identified the gaps, we can also see where we are maybe focusing on too much on one or two of these aspects, because we all know it is very difficult to change curricula. In South Africa, if I want to change my curricula, I first have to take it to the teaching and learning faculty department and the committee. They then approve it. Then it goes to Senate. Senate has to approve it, and then it goes to the South African authorities to approve those changes. And with all policies and red tape, we know that this is a tremendous long procedure. At the moment, I made some changes to my curricula, which will only be implemented in 2025. So anything that I see as emerging trends now that I want to be able to include in my curriculum now, even if I make the formal changes, the students will only benefit from it in 2025. And I'm sure you all follow a similar process. We also know that because this process takes so long, we have to be very sure in what we take out of our curricula and what we put into our curricula, because we also only have that much space. You cannot keep on piling on new modules for the students to do, and your credits of your degree gets higher and higher, and in the end, the students can't cope with this. We are set to a certain amount of credits, and I'm sure you are too. In South Africa, we look at a minimum of 120 credits per year. Our degree in South Africa is only a 3-year degree, where I know most of your degrees is a 4-year degree. And for those 3 years, we then should be around 360 credits. So I've got very limited space to take modules out that I think have become irrelevant and to add new modules in. So please keep this in mind as we talk about this important topic. So what I did was I looked at the Lead City University's curricula that was provided to me. As I mentioned, this is a B.Ed, so it falls in the education faculty, I presume. And because it falls in the education faculty, there has to be a certain amount of education focused modules. And obviously you are tied within the faculty rules and regulations with regards to how much of these modules you can take out or keep in. So what I did was I looked at the 4 levels from 100 level all the way up to 400 level. And what I did was compare it to this ALA traditional curricula, and to see where are the gaps and where are the overlaps. So if we look at the first year 100 level, we've got communication in English, which doesn't, because that's an education module, it doesn't fall into the ALA curricula at all. The second one, we've got Nigerian people and culture. And I do think that this could fall into current trend, because it's important for us to have a look at what's happening in our countries, what is happening with various cultures. So I think that that module would relate to the 10th category that was listed by the ALA. Introduction to teaching and the foundations of education, obviously that does not match to the ALA traditional curriculum. And then we start with our library modules. We've got Introduction to Library and Information Science, which I think definitely goes into the foundational aspects of library and information science, which we can say is the same as level 7 of the ALA curriculum. We've got Introduction to Digital Libraries and basic library application packages. Now, obviously, it's very difficult by just looking at the names of these modules and not actually having access to in-depth module descriptions to make a 100% comparison. But we know that digital libraries is part of the new technologies for library systems. We know that library application packages are also ICT geared. And that is why I compared those 2 modules with the 8th category of the ALA curricula. If we go through to 200 level, I did the same. And the first one is Philosophy, Logic, Environment, and Sustainable Development. And this was an interesting one for me. And I figured because I did not have access to the module content, philosophy and ethics definitely have meeting points. We know that information ethics is rooted in philosophy and philosophical principles of principles such as privacy and access and security. So I compared that to level 6 of the ALA traditional curricula. Entrepreneurship and innovation is an interesting one, because I also feel that this gives the skills for students to professionally develop themselves. Where that student is going to work one day, we don't know. And we have to equip them in our curricula to be able to walk into a business, have the entrepreneurial background, have the innovation to really work, be a good employee in that business, and also have the necessary skills to maybe open their own business if that is what the student wants to. So I allocated that to level 10, which is your professional development section of the ALA curricula. Teaching methods, obviously, that does not fall into the ALA curricula, as this is the education part of the program. Looking at organization of knowledge, that's definitely a level 1 of ALA. Library and information services for children would fall under information services, which is level 2 of the ALA. Serials management is definitely part of collection management, so that will fall into level 3 of the ALA. And then ICT, looking at various technologies and technologies used in libraries, will be number 8. Now, you can already see just from these 2 years levels that we've had a brief comparison that there is a very strong focus on technology. If I go one step back, on first year level, we had the digital libraries, which is technology. We already had the library application packages, which is technology. Now we have ICT in libraries, which is technology. So a very strong focus in this curriculum on technology. If we go on to 300 level, we can see that peace and conflict resolution, although it doesn't tie in directly to the ALA curricula, I still feel it's important as current issues in a country is very important for the LIS professional to see what's going on in the country, to be able to do a SWOT analysis, to see what the country's strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities are. And I think if you have a background in peace and conflict resolution, this will definitely be an added skill for the student. Venture creation, again, one of those skills that builds our entrepreneurship, that helps our students become innovative and maybe create their own venture. So I've also compared that to level 10. Teaching practice, we cannot compare because that's part of the education program. Educational measurements, research methodology, I allocated to level 7, which looked at the research methods. Organization of knowledge definitely falls into level 1. There we've got a module on specific collection management, which is the ALA level 3. Reference and information services will resort to the information services category of the LIA. And again, there we've got a number 8 coming out with hardware and software technologies. So that's another focus on the 3rd year level on ICT and technologies. I didn't equate the civis module, as this is more the work module that the students go do, where we hope they obtain practical work experience. And because that's more a practical subject, I then did not equate that back to the ALA categories. If we look at the final year, there they've got the project, and I assume the project would be very research-based. So I allocated that to level 7. Teaching practice, again, we cannot allocate. Indexing and abstracting, definitely level 4. There we've got archives and record management, which is level 9, addressing preservation. We've got publishing, book production and trade. And I figured that was also part of the wider, bigger environment in which information professional, whether it's a librarian or information scientist would work in, would then fall under those future trends and future applications. And then again, on level 4, we see a strong focus on ICT with a database design and management. So if we now had to make a overall comparison to these ALA curricula, this is how it would compare. So we've got 2 modules that addresses level 1, 2 modules that addresses level 2, 2 modules that addresses level 3. There is only 1 module that addresses cataloging and metadata. I could not see from the definitions of the names of those modules if there was any modules that actually did address library management and administration. The information ethics, I think, was at least addressed a little bit by the philosophy. Research methods came strong through in 3 modules. And there we can see our focus points: library technology and systems, 5 modules, only 2 modules on archival studies and preservations, and then all the loose things that I couldn't find a place for, but the innovation, the entrepreneurship, I put into this professional development category. So there's 5 modules that addresses this. So basically, by just looking at this slide in front of you, we can already identify possible gaps that the current curricula doesn't even address the traditional curricula. And maybe we can say that in some of these, it over addresses the traditional curriculum. And 5 modules that I didn't mention, those were all the other modules that then specifically looks at the B.Ed and the education and the teaching aspect of the degree. So before we can add new modules, if you look at this, and this is an exercise that you all should be doing in your various universities, what can we start cutting out in this? Because we can't just add. We have to take something out and then put something in. So what do we take out? Do we take out a little bit of the technology, although that is a very strong future trend at the moment? Do we take out some of the professional development in current issues and maybe tell them that those are skills that they should be teaching on their own as additional subjects, but not part of our formal curriculum? What should we be taking out to make place for all the new curricula that is out there? And this is a very difficult decision for an institution to make. Just to give you a little bit of background of the University of Pretoria, many years ago, we decided to drop the L in our LIS name. So we are not the Department of Library and Information Science anymore. We dropped the libraries part and we just the Department of Information Science. And because we did that, we were able to get rid of some of the pure library orientated modules. And the reasoning behind this was there were so many universities in South Africa. We wanted to obtain our own niche. We didn't want to be in competition or comparison to other universities in South Africa. We wanted to make our focus different. And in those years, we changed our focus away from the library, but focusing more on the information professional and giving the information professional additional skills, such as knowledge management, such as competitive intelligence. And these are some of the skills that we'll see in the following slide that comes out in IFLA's guidelines for LIS curricula as well. Some of the other universities in South Africa, like UNISA, they are still focusing strong on, for instance, school libraries. UniZulu, they still have a strong archive and museum background. So everybody's got their own niche, which makes us which gives us a point to sell ourselves, which is very important. And that is what you are going to have to do as a library profession. Decide what university library schools are going to focus on what, so that you don't all teach the same things. It's not necessary to teach the same things. We can definitely provide a much wider and broader range of areas for our students to focus in, which in our case, makes our students much more employable in Society 5.0. And that is what we have to look at. So just looking at IFLA, I'm not sure if you are aware, but in 2022, IFLA published guidelines for programs in library and information science. And it's not set in stone. And it's very important for institutions to note that these aren't rules and regulations. These are purely guidelines for an institution to follow. It's important that our curricula is designed thinking about the identified needs of our students and of the current profession. We need to know what the profession wants. We need to know what the industry wants. We need to anticipate changes in the profession because it takes so long to make changes to curricula. So we have to actually think 2 or 3 years ahead of time. Where do we think the profession is heading, and start making the changes in our curricula for a future for 2 or 3 years that we're not even into. It's important that if you decide to change your curricula, that you do it in connection and be consistent with your parent institution. You have to look at what your university's mission is, what is their vision, what is their philosophy. The University of Pretoria, for instance, one of our missions is to be globally competitive, but to be locally relevant. So it's important for us to note what's happening in the future, what's happening in developed countries, what's happening with technology, so that our students remain globally competitive, but without losing our local part, because we still have to be locally relevant. And you have to do the same with regards to your university. And then obviously, depending in which faculty your program is, there is going to be rules and regulations that your program will have to meet. Like the B.Ed, because it's in the education faculty, you're going to have to include education-driven modules. And if you can, and I'm not sure if this is a possibility for you, and that's what we did in South Africa, we were always a BA subject, a bachelor's humanities subject, and we broke away about, I think, 15 years ago and created a BIS, which is a Baccalaureus Information Science. So it is our own degree. And that enabled us to then be able to provide the students with more library and information science focused modules, not having to put in education modules, not having to put in humanity modules, but being able to skill our students exactly the way we want them to. So if you haven't had a chance to look at these IFLA guidelines, please do so. They are really very informative. This is a screenshot of the foundational knowledge areas, which they speak about. So they've identified 8 knowledge areas, and we're going to go through them on the next slide, but starting very broad as a society, information in society, and then working it to specific cylinders, that's really specific skills like information resource management or literacies or information needs. But then there's also a few cross-cutting themes that will go across all the modules. Things like research. You must be able to do research in a variety of topics, not just in one silo. Our technologies speak to all the various modules, not just one module. So let's have a look in a little bit more detail to these knowledge areas. So I've got them there, and the document I have cited in my reference list for you to have a look. It's freely available in the IFLA repository. And the first one is information in society. Now, we all know that information exists within the bigger societal context. And it's basically got this a symbiotic relationship with society, because information changes society, but society is changed by information. So the two work on each other. And there's so many forces under this focus area. We can think of things like cultural, economic, legal, political. Think about everything that we teach our students about the information and knowledge society. Think about information ethics as a loose standing LIS curricula, and not part of a wider philosophy subject. So that would be information in society. Our second one looks at our basic foundations in the LIS profession. And these are typically our modules that are presented on a first year level to our students. And they include the fundamental knowledge, the things like the introduction to the profession, things like the role and the history of our discipline, our core values, all those type of things would fall under foundations of the LIS profession. If we move on to information communication technologies, this is the biggest foundational and knowledge area, because this is often where the most change takes place. We know that technology is ever changing, and it's very difficult to be able to think what's coming. There are a few international reports that would try and help us with this. The Horizon report, for instance, looks at ICT in information and library institutions, and then gives you a short focus of what would you have to implement within the next 1 or 2 years, and then a medium focus, what type of technology are we going to see within 3 to 5 years, and then a long term, what are we going to see in 5 to 10 years happening in our libraries. So it's important to take note of these type of publications, because it'll help you to curriculate with knowledge. The fourth area is research and innovation. And Obviously, under research, we know that innovation is premised on research. It enables benchmarking. We can determine impact. We can obtain data through research. So that is very important. And I think most of our curriculums have some kind of research-based project. Our students do it in our 4th year. We've got an undergraduate of 3 years, and then that's followed by an honors in information science, which is our 4th year. And that's similar to your 4th year, where the students have a big research project to do. And what I'm very pleased to see in this IFLA guidelines is the focus on innovation. It's important that we still create skills for our students to innovate, to be entrepreneurs, to be able to go out there and create a future for themselves and employability where they can make a living for themselves. So I'm very pleased to see that innovation over there. The next area that we have a look at is area number 5, and that is our information resource management. And this is basically, it comprises every stage in the life of an information resource, from its creation to its end, including the acquisition, the identification, the description, the organization, everything surrounding that. And it depends what your focus is. If you look at information as a resource with regards to a published written resource like a book, then you'll probably have modules focusing on book studies or publishing studies. In South Africa, we actually created 3 degrees where we looked at information as a product, but firstly as in the general information science product, it can be anything. But then we focused on technology and said, but information can be a multimedia product, and then focus. And then we started the degree called BIS Multimedia, looking at how that resource is treated. How do students create a multimedia product? How does students work with a multimedia product and the various technological skills associated with that? But we can't forget about books. It's also necessary to have books in your curriculum. So we actually have a 3rd degree called BIS Publishing Studies that focuses on the information as a book product, as a written product, whether it's electronic or physical. The students go through the commissioning and the whole life cycle of a book, the editing, etc. So I'm very pleased to see this in the IFLA's foundational guidelines. Then we have a look at management, and management is something that I did see as a possible gap in your current curricula, and I've got the next slide will address those gaps. The management looks at various organizational management skills. Our students must have leadership, they must have decision-making, planning, they must know something about public relations, they must know about financial management, they must know about human resource management. Under this, it also is knowledge management, information knowledge management. We know the basic concept that has changed into the more higher concept of knowledge management. All these management aspects fall under number 6, the management of information processes. And something that I also did not see specifically mentioned in your curricula is information needs. There is quite a lot of user services that they mention, but it's still necessary to develop an effective curriculum that understands the conscious and unconscious needs of the user. What does the user want? What type of service must I be able to give that user? And if it's a computerized or a computer-based service, then we start looking at serious skills like human-computer interaction, HCI. How must the interface be designed so that the user's need is met? So I'm going to look at those type of skills under the emerging trends, which will end our presentation a little bit later on. And then under our last one, literacies and learning, we all know as information professionals, we do try to create culture of lifelong learning under our students. It's very important that there is still basic learning, pedagogical knowledge and skills given to our students, that they know about learning activities and various teaching methods and learning theory and lesson planning and things like that. So those are the 8 foundational knowledge areas that, according to IFLA, is currently very important to be present in our current LIS curricula. And if I've mentioned something here that you know is not in your curricula, then this is something that you can now take back to your institution. Take these guidelines back and say, where can we incorporate some of these knowledge areas? Maybe it's not necessary to create an entire new module for that learning area. Maybe you can work it into something that already exists. So you can, for instance, if you've got modules focusing on user services, then maybe put 1 or 2 themes in there on information needs, so that you also accommodate that foundational knowledge area. So possible gaps that I could see from a very brief analysis of the curriculum, and again, you are strongly encouraged to do this with your own curriculum. I didn't see the mention of information and knowledge societies in the curriculum, which is the knowledge area number 1. Although there was some philosophy mentioned, I didn't see any information ethics curricula. You know, our students work with social media. It's important for them to know about the information ethical skills of Society 5.0. They need to know how to interact with technology on an ethically and moral principles. I mean, if we're now starting to think of machine learning and we're starting to think about artificial intelligence and ChatGPT, we must teach our students the ethical consequences of plagiarism through using platforms and programs like this. So information ethics is becoming more and more important, and actually not just for LIS professionals, for all universities. So for any learner, and it doesn't matter in what that learner is focusing, information ethics should be there. I've put information and communication technologies there because although you've got 5 modules looking at a form of ICT, no curricula is ever up to date with ICT. ICT changes too fast. By the time you want to include something in your curricula, the ICT is gone and it's nearly forgotten and a new one has taken its place. And for that reason, considering to put something in your curricula like emerging technologies, you don't put a word on it, you don't put a specific type of technology in it. And creating a module like that enables you to include in your curricula anything that is currently important. Like if I had a module like that, which I don't, I would have been able to put in everything about maybe artificial intelligence and our programs such like ChatGPT and the various others that exist. I mean, there's not just one, there are millions out there that helps our students and maybe helping them unethically. Maybe we should teach them how to use these platforms in an ethical manner. I didn't see anything with regards to information and knowledge management. I didn't see anything with regards to competitive intelligence. And these are mentioned in the focus areas of IFLA in number 6. I didn't see anything specifically on research data management, unless maybe it is a part of the curricula under the normal research methods, but this is also part of the management that must definitely be focused on. And I didn't see anything about big data. So these are some of the trends that already should be part of the curricula and which I can consider as possible gaps in the current curricula. I want to emphasize the role of professional organizations. We've now spent some time at looking at the IFLA guidelines, but if you're not part of the larger IFLA organization, or you part of it, but you don't pay attention to the publications coming out of these professional organizations, then you lose lose out on very necessary information to update your curricula. You need to be part of international organizations to be able to see what are they doing, what are they teaching. In Pretoria, our department is fortunate to be part of the bigger iSchool curricula. I know Makerere University is also an iSchool member. And this is something that we should maybe consider. Becoming part of a bigger organization basically gives credibility to your curricula, which is very good because all our students want to know, are they internationally accredited? So you can say, well, it's not internationally accredited, but it's so good that we were accepted to be an iSchool member. So, and then have a look at what the iSchool philosophy and vision and mission is. Organization that's very close to my heart is ASIST. So if you're not a member of ASIST, please become a member of ASIST. There is various membership opportunities. We started the African chapter in ASIST 2 years ago. I was a founding officer of that chapter, and I'm still in a different role, part of the chapter this year. I'm actually part of the recruitment, and that's why I can also use this platform to get you to become members. That's part of my job. But it's really a great way to see what other institutions around the world is doing. What's the current technologies? So if you become a member, you've got access to free webinars. You've got access to a wealth of knowledge. And not just you as a lecturer, our students as well. So I want to take this opportunity to tell you that I have literally, I sent the paperwork to the ASIST organization yesterday to create an Africa student chapter for our students. And because countries like Nigeria fall in the tier 2 membership, it is literally free. There's a waiver of membership fees for 2 years. And for 2 years, your students can then benefit from being part of this bigger organization. So maybe don't, tell your students about that on first or second year level. I think then they're still too immature and too young. But consider your 3rd years and 4th years, and please have a look. I will be advertising the student chapter sign up as soon as it's been approved by the ASIST mother organization. Other tier 2 countries is a lot in Africa. We can see there, you can see Nigeria, but also Rwanda. We can see many African countries, Lesotho, Kenya, Malawi, and you can read through those lists. They all have access to all these resources free. And it's very important to be able to do that. So if we have a look at our next slide, I think somebody just gained control of my screen. Can we just get control of my screen back, please? Somebody wants control of my screen.
I'll do something about that now. Yeah, don't worry.
Thank you. So we're nearly at the end. What I want to focus on now is having a look at what is currently emerging trends. Because we can have a look at these emerging trends and start doing research in where these trends are going so that we can start making changes to our curriculum now that our students will be able to benefit from in 2 years' time. So I still can't move on, John.
You can stop sharing and share again.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
Stop sharing. And then share again. I'm just going to have to go to the right slide quickly.
Okay.
Nearly done. Okay, so somebody is still asking to regain control You can regain control anytime by clicking on your screen. Okay, so
just reject it.
I am trying. I'm trying.
Okay.
There we go. So there we go. So at the moment, some of our big emerging technologies is data science and analytics. Guys, stop playing around with my screen.
We do not usually have to go through.
So can you?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I've put it on, but somebody is taking it off again.
So,
okay.
Can you get the name of the person so I can just remove? Yeah, I'm just trying to locate as well. All these are the Zoom bombers.
Okay, well, let's see. Yeah. Okay, so if it happens again, I'll have a look at the name. So we know that data science at the moment is a big thing. I think it might be Aragundadi Abdul Guyon.
Okay, good.
Yes, sorry, Dr. Alonga. The person is using different people's accounts. The person has used Arogundade, has used other people's names. So
okay, yeah, I think they are bombers. Don't worry, I will try to locate the person. I will set. Just go ahead. I will do a setting now that she will.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if we get back there. Okay, so we know data science is very important, and this is something that we don't always have space within our current curricula to include that. So for instance, at the University of Pretoria in South Africa, as a side venture, we started the CoData RDA Data Science School to give postgraduate students the chance to be able to benefit from these skills of analytics and data visualization, because there really isn't place in our normal curriculum for this. But it's very important for us to still have a look at this. AI, we have talked about a lot, machine learning, all these new technologies coming up. Somewhere we have to teach our students how to use it, because they're going to be requested to use these tools and technologies in the workplace one day. So somewhere maybe as a practical, you should work in how to correctly use ChatGPT or Quillbot or one of the various AI services that's there. UX design, ally programs are incorporating user experience into creating better library systems. To me, I must say this falls more in a computer science curriculum for me, but it was flagged as a possibility of emerging technology in the LIS program. Okay, and now I can't move on. Okay, I'm just going to, there we go. Digital curation and preservation, although we have quite a few modules looking at that, we have to ensure that our content of those modules are updated, because when it comes to digital curation and preservation, the technology and the techniques to ensure long-term access to these materials are changing, and we have to keep on adapting our content of our existing modules. Information visualization, that's actually part of data science. How do you visualize your data in research to be effective? And then information privacy and security definitely would fall into information ethics. We all know that the 5 ethical issues is privacy, access, property, where we look at intellectual property, accuracy, all the problems that's being created with regard to technology. If you think about deep fakes that's being created on social media, on Facebook, spreading false rumors, false political messages. We need to be able to warn our students about this so that they don't fall victim to these scams. And I think, let me just get control back of my screen, go away. Okay, I'll be getting to the next screen as soon as I can. Open access and open science is also something that I did not see in the formal curricula. It's mentioned by the IFLA guidelines, but I do think that we can definitely do more with this. The movement towards open access and open publishing is transforming our scholarly communication. And if we don't teach our students how to do it, and if we don't incorporate it in our modules, then there's definitely a gap in our curricula. And then something that I also didn't see specifically is social media and digital communication. These are still platforms that our students are using every single day, and we can use these platforms for a variety of benefits, but obviously it must then be in our curriculum. Okay, so in conclusion, I just want to say that building a sustainable LIS curriculum that actually balances the traditional skills with the emerging trend is paramount in equipping our future professionals to navigate this changing landscape. And by embracing our rich heritage in our discipline, so we can't just throw it out, we still have to embrace it while looking for the new innovative approaches in technologies, we can ensure that LIS education remains relevant, adaptable, and responsive to the needs of our people and the people that we serve. So just as a last quote for you to take back with you, Malcolm X said, "Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today." Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And the floor is open to any questions as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor. We really appreciate this beautiful presentation. Yeah, this is part of the disadvantages of using online Zoom at times. We have a Zoom bomber now, using people's name. I will control that by removing the person. Yeah, I'm going to invite now Mrs. Obo to take over, give us a recap, and also over to you, Mrs. Obo. You know, a bomber has come in. I will make sure to deal with that bomber now. Over to you, Mrs. Obo. Thank you, Prof. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Alonge. Thank you, Professor Manning, for that mind-juggling presentation. I must say that you've done a very great one. You've widened our horizon, and I like the fact that you brought a balance to things. You kept on saying that even as we are looking for more things to bring in, we must be mindful of what we want to take out of the curriculum, which is very, very important. Hence, we lose the professional identity just because we are trying to update our curriculum, and we are gunning for being relevant. And meanwhile, what we have as our own traditional heritage could still be useful only if you look at it in the light of our, local and our own local relevance, in the light of global innovation, global stands that people are taking now. So thank you very much, Professor Marlin. You raised some gaps, and I believe that we will definitely, this will not end here. We are going to give a report, and we are going to submit it to our professional body here in Nigeria, so that we can begin to look into it. Thank you very much. Without much ado, I would like to welcome questions. I believe when she was discussing, for you to relay your question. And of course, there's a hand up here, but before I give room for the person, there was a question that was posted on the chat page, and the person asked that since we are information professionals, and based on the curriculum, LIS curriculum in Nigeria right now, there's no provision for museum studies. The curriculum, how do we make provision for that? There is no provision right now in the curriculum for museum. However, we have for libraries, we have for archives.
Yes.
So how do we do that? Over to you, Professor. Thank you, Ma.
Okay, that is a good question. And I think maybe that is also where the role of continued development programs come in. So as lecturers, museum studies might have been part of many of the current educators' curriculum when they were still studying. And now because of changes, it has fallen at the wayside, but there definitely is still a need for it. I mean, museums are not going away, and it's important that there's still a focus on it. But we must remember that this is a very niche area. It's a very small area. I don't think all LIS students or all LIS professionals want to go into that as a subsection. But then creating continuous professional development programs where after a 4-year program, they can maybe then come in and do a 4-week course or a certificate or a diploma course on museum studies to give them those skills. I think that might be a way that the Nigerian Library Association can also do this for the entire country if they present such continuous development programs.
All right, thank you, Ma. There's another hand raised up here. John Adebayo, please, can you ask your question?
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. You touched an area that is so dear to me. And the first thing, I have 2 questions actually. And the first one is, looking at the emerging trends in LIS globally, it's like many things are changing at the same time that would also require going extra mile on the side of the faculty as well, because it's like a complete overhaul of what we are used to. Now, what are the practical tips that you will recommend for knowledge upscale for faculty members in that regard? Now, the second question is that the high school movement is actually doing a lot globally now. And when we look at Africa as a continent, our continent is not fully represented on that movement. And I think probably is one of the reasons why we're kind of not catching up with the development curriculum-wise with what is happening globally. Now, Prof, I don't know, what do you think we can do as LIS schools in Africa to fully make ourselves available and visible on the platform of high school movements globally, so that we'll be a partaker and contributor to the development that is happening globally? Thank you.
Thanks, John. I think, and I think you've touched upon it as well, is the role of these international organizations. So there's many of these international organizations provide free webinars that our educators can become part of and upskill themselves through these webinars, which then costs nothing. And then I think the Professional Library Association has got a responsibility to, from their side, create opportunities for such programs. And such programs can be voluntary, where people offer their services. It doesn't always have to be paid for. We do have the technology that with Zoom and everything, where a person in the UK can spend an hour teaching professional librarians or professional teachers or educators in Nigeria a skill that they think they've got a gap in. But for you to see those gaps, you need to be part of these organizations and to become visible on these organizations. Like we've got the African chapter, and I think the last time when we had a membership meeting, there was only about 30 people in that meeting on an international forum for African people. If we want to be visible, we have to make ourselves available. We must make ourselves available to service to such an organization, and we must support those organizations. With regard to the iSchool, I know you can become a member. It's quite a long paperwork exercise, but we went through it, and Professor Ina, I'm sure, will be able to give tips on that. And I know Makerere has gone through this as well, but there currently isn't a iSchool in Nigeria. One institution must take that leap and start that work and get into contact with the iSchools. They helped us tremendously with our application. Even if you don't want to do it alone, do it with other organizations. Like we as Department of Information Science, we did it together with our Department of Informatics and our Department of Computer Science, because together we're the School of IT, and we thought that it will make us stronger for the application. But in the end, it wasn't actually necessary. But you could do something similar as well. You can maybe try to join as a faculty even to provide all these necessary skills. So I hope that answers your questions, John.
Yeah, sorry, before you go ahead, before we ask the other people to ask questions, Professor Marlene, I want to just clarify something with you. I know you made use of a curriculum, Nigerian curriculum, as a case, when you are making your presentation. I just want to inform you that that curriculum you used is the one that NUC, Nigerian University Council, proposed, for the LIS schools in Nigeria. It's not for LIS City University. Yeah, so just for information. Thank you. Over to you, the moderator of the questions.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Alunga, for that clarification. Okay, I do not know if there are other questions. If you have questions, please can you signify?
Okay. Pokola is raising hand.
Can you go ahead to ask your question?
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you, Professor Marlene, once again for filling us once again with your wealth of knowledge. It's always a nice time to have you around. I'm interested in learning from you, or hearing your view about the best design approach for a curricular review. To put it simply, if we want to review a curriculum, is it best to say, okay, let's gather a group of professors and let them take a look at the curriculum and then give us something new? Or should we go bottom up, including maybe younger individuals with little experience, or maybe even including the users one way or the other to know what their view is? So I want to learn what the best approach is from you in while trying to actually review a curriculum and come up with a better one. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is a difficult question, but a very good one. And I think it depends on your purpose for looking at your curriculum. If you want to look at your curriculum and make it more globally competitive, then it would be a good idea to compare it to global curricula that's out there. So then I would, if I was an institution, I would contact, I would first do research, find out which is a very good international library school, and then ask for their curricula, sit down and compare our curricula and see what the gaps are. This is something that it's important that the staff, the educators in the department have to buy into, because it's a lot of work. And if they don't see the need for doing it, then you're going to have a lot of resistance from your staff, which you don't want. So it's very important to get their buy-in as well. And then, every country has got different ways of doing things. In South Africa, we as department, we are encouraged to have what we call an advisory board. And the advisory board is filled with international academics, national academics, but from other institutions, and then industry people. Now, industry sometimes comes with really absurd requests, which you can't always look at, but it's good to give them a platform where they feel heard. And sometimes they do come up with new things that they would feel their clients need. And I mean, our students are going to work in industry. We need to know what their needs are as well. So I really think a combination approach is the best, looking internationally, using your own local people, but then also your industry to see what the current needs are and what changes you can possibly make to address those needs.
Oh, thank you very much, Prof. Mr. Popola, I hope you are satisfied with Prof's response to your question.
Yes, okay. I am. Thank you.
All right. Okay, do we have any other question or comments? The floor is open now. Any other question or comment? Okay, in the absence of none, okay, Mr. John Adebayo, you have the floor again. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you once again, Professor Marlene. I'm so happy, and it's good that there are some of your products at CPD at the University of Pretoria, South Africa, who are joining this call. For me personally, after leaving South Africa in 2017, I felt, oh, we have a long way to go. And I'm just thinking, Prof, is it possible to have a kind of unified curriculum in Africa? It may not be a unified one, as it were, but something that promotes, that represents our identity as a continent, so that if I leave Nigeria for University of Ghana, for instance, there won't be too much difference in the knowledge gap. If anybody comes from Kenya to Rwanda, it's going to be something similar. Is it possible, Prof? So that Africa continent, as far as LIS is concerned, will not be too backward from what is obtainable globally. Yeah. And it's a kind of form of consortium we do in library services. Is it possible to translate or transfer such skills into knowledge sharing among LIS educators and students? That's just my concern, a reflection kind of. Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, I think that's actually a part of the reason why IFLA developed these guidelines. It's very important that there is some kind of basic standard, some guidelines, some of those modules we need to ensure is in all of our curricula. I mean, there is basic foundation things that we know will have to be in such a curricula. But it is important that every university and every LIS school still remains and retains its personal identity. We don't want to go through an exercise where we lose our personal identities. Universities in Africa is following the way of the world, and it's becoming more like a business than that of an educational institution, where you actually try to get more students, and you try to get the better students, and you try to get to be the best. And if all the curricula is exactly the same, you will not be able to do that. So we have to leave space for being individuals and having our own individual niches. But having said that, there's basic foundational things that should be in our programs. And I think that's what IFLA is trying to do by suggesting these guidelines.
Thank you very much, Professor Marlene. I like the place of when you mentioned personal individualism. I mean, there's still a need for that. Even as we aim to have a unified curriculum, we cannot be a clone of one another. So we still have to maintain our individualism, even in the midst of global competitiveness, global relevance, and all that. Thank you very much. The chairman, National and NLA Oyo State chapter raised her hand. I believe she has a question or a comment. Dr. Sophia Adeyeye, please.
Yes, have the floor. Professor Marlene has actually covered what I wanted to say about retaining our personal and individual reasons from being a LIS school. And that is why IFLA gave us a guideline so that individual library school can come up with a curriculum that could fit into mission and vision of the university. And immediately after NUC gave us that curriculum, stakeholders came together, and later NUC asked us to go and develop 30% content that is a particular things that are just particular about us. So I'm just saying this to back up what Professor Malin said about retaining our personal reasons. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sophia Adeyeye. Yes, I don't know if there are other questions. Do we have anybody with a question? Or
okay, I think I'm a moderator, but I just want to also add to this discussion. I know Professor Malin mentioned about the some skills that we need to have. And we had a question from John that how are we going to get this, especially the faculty members, because things are really changing, looking at emerging technologies around. I just want to advise that there's a lot of free trainings also online, that we can tap into. Many of us, when we were in library schools, we didn't get all this knowledge we are using today. It's from the constant retraining. And one of them is what we enjoyed at Pretoria, the CPD. I want to appreciate that, that is making us what we are today. And many of CPD alumni, they are in this forum today, and we thank you for that. Another thing, which I think you mentioned that, but you didn't really emphasize, is the issue of this data science that is trending today. And even people that are non-LIS, they are tapping into it. So how are you finding that even in your institution? Are you teaching data science, as a deep course? Because it's the key thing now all over the world. If you are skilled in data science, you can get a job anywhere, anytime, anywhere in the world. So what can you say about data science, man? Over to you, Professor Merlin.
Data science is a difficult one. In our institution, we would train some of our postgrads through, for instance, that summer school that we do, the co-dated summer school. But in computer science, they actually have their own MIT degree focused on data science. So depends on in what depth you go into it. I don't think our students always have the knowledge or the want to learn about machine learning and all these computer languages and Python and R and et cetera, et cetera. They don't want that because that's not what they're going to go into. The ones that do want to go into it, we need to give them alternative routes to then study it. And I think there's a place for some of our curricula within a data science curriculum. For instance, the information ethics. In our MIT C program, which is a computer science, data science, I still, as an information science lecturer, present information ethics to those students because that's not a skill set they would have, and it's a very essential skill set. The same way Dr. Marty van Deventer teaches them research data management, for instance, because that's something that they need that's not presented within their program. So I think sharing expertise between the various departments so that nothing happens in isolation, so that you know what's happening in the data science sphere, so that there is a possibility to refer that one or two students that have the computer science knowledge that want to work in this field. But it's really, we cannot redo what the computer science department is doing. We don't want to lose our own identity to that extent. But I do think that they should benefit from our knowledge with some of our modules such as ethics and research data management, etc.
Okay, thank you, Prof. I think I also have a leading question again. I understand that we should not lose our identity, information management, library science. Like in Nigeria, we also have a challenge, to have a uniform name for LIS program. Some people feel that, we should remove library, as you have done in your own part. Removing library in the name, don't you think we are losing our focus also at our source, library? from the name. Some people call LIS school, information school, and so. What do you think about that, Prof?
Depends on your own university's mission and vision and their goal. When we did this exercise, we spoke to our alumni, and we saw that a majority of our alumni, when we still had the library in the name, and we were still teaching classification and all that stuff, they never went to work within a library. They went to work in the bigger information professional. Some of them did go to specialist libraries, some of them became information consultants, resource managers, etc. And we had to look where the industry in South Africa is taking our students, and it wasn't the library. And that is why we changed our name. If you are in an area where the library is predominantly important and there isn't other industries available, then I wouldn't say drop it. But it depends on every university's place in the world, every university's environment, their bigger social environment, and looking at where your individual students are actually finding a job. And if it is still in libraries, then obviously in your country that's different to us, and that's why then you keep the name library. But if you do this exercise and you see but they're not working in a library, then that does give you the opportunity to make changes to your curriculum.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Yes, I think as a moderator, Mrs. Obo, can I take over now?
Okay, but I just want to make a comment before yes. So as regards, I like the fact that Professor Manning keeps on zooming in on our own national uniqueness, even as we seek to embrace global way of doing things. She keeps going zooming it on our own national uniqueness, which is very important. And because when you raise the issue, Dr. Alunge, about data science, data analytics, I believe that as an information professional, library and information professional, is very important that you have that skill. There was a time I just took it upon myself to do a research of the job requirements for information professionals. So I went to UN Inspira, I went to AU, I went to their site, I went to some major multinationals, and I realized that one of the key skill sets that is required, I mean, they talked about you being able to classify information, you being able to carry out user community analysis and all that. Amongst this is the issue of data analytics, talking about visualization and all that, being able to use Excel to analyze, being able to use Power BI and all that. So you realize that even when we talk about global competitiveness, we still need all these skills. However, no curriculum can completely prepare a student for the industry. So as a student, just like Dr. Alunge rightly said, some of the things they know today, they are using the knowledge and skill set they know today. No one taught them during their library school days. So I think it still behoves on individuals to keep on seeking for knowledge and skill. That is why even from our primary school days, one of the things teachers emphasize then is lifelong learning. It's very important. It's a skill set that anybody who wants to be globally relevant should look into. So that's just my own little comment and submission. Thank you, sir. Over to you, Dr. Alunge.
Thank you very much, Ms. Obo, for the coordination. And I must tell you, I love that response from Professor Melin. The question is a matter of marketing strategy. What are the things that people are really looking for in the LIS? It will determine what name you are going to give your program. Like, for example, in some African countries, information management, records management is the key. And even they have more students than LIS, library itself. So I support what Prof mentioned and also Ms. Obo. Thank you very much. We have diverse population in this meeting and people joining on YouTube, on Zoom, lecturers, students, especially young people who need this curriculum. They are here and you are listening. Many of us, what we are today is not based on what we learned in school many years ago. It's retraining, getting opportunities. Please Don't think that after you have had the first degree or master's in library science, that's the end. Learning continues. And we have a lot of platforms, MOOC, that where you can learn things, trending things. And that is what Professor Marlene has done today to encourage us to to give us the lead that we should learn and see how we can change, update our curriculum from time to time. Thank you very much. We can see some hands, but because of our time, you can drop your comment. Happiness, drop your comment, and others. Now I'm going to invite the Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Library Association, Oyo State Chapter, a brand new doctor. I believe this is the first official responsibility as a doctor. Dr. Ola, what is his name again? Sorry, I cannot forget. Dr.
Akinola.
Sorry, John. That is my name. John Akinola, over to you. You have the floor for the closing remark. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Olenge. Well, on behalf of the chairperson, the and other information providers, we really appreciate it. God will bless us. Well, you permit me to say that this is the first webinar series in the establishment of NLA Oyo State Chapter for young librarians. I think the chairperson and the committee in charge needs to be applauded for this, because I would say this is the first time we're having such, and there is an eye opener for all our young librarians to know how we do things as librarians, and then our curriculum, and how we can really effect change in terms of marketing our profession, doing what is needful, and seeking advice from others, our professional colleagues. So I will say this: thank you, everybody, for joining us. The Almighty Lord will be with us and will guide us. And NLA, or your state chapter, will be growing from glory to glory in Jesus' name. I still remain your humble servant, Dr. John Olubenga Akinola, PRO for your state library chapter. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akinola. Thank you very much, Dr. Akinola, for that closing remark. And now, as usual, we need to do a virtual photograph, a group photograph. So what we need to do, as many people as it's possible for you, unmute your microphone, your video. Show your video. Let's see your face. Then we can take picture together. This is what we can do. This is a virtual photograph. Yeah. So as possible, just show your video. Let us see your face. Then we'll take the picture. Yeah. So are we ready now?
Yeah, ready.
Okay. Yeah, so Dr. Oluwabumi Bakari, you can take pictures as well. Let's take those pictures as people are unmuted. Yeah.
So that might be difficult.
Come again?
I'm actually not using my system, so that might be
I'm doing it from here. I've done it. Well, once again, I thank everyone. Professor Marlene is a popular name in Nigerian community, academic community. And for information, she will be available in Nigeria physically for the first time, courtesy the library LIS department, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. So, and some of us will be welcoming her as well. So we are so glad. You can unmute, Professor Marlene. We are so glad to have you here.
Professor Marlene, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Good
it's
morning,
a pleasure. I really look forward to seeing all of you next week.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Of Nigeria.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof, for Imo State.
We love you, Professor Malin.
For
We
the
all love
wonderful
you.
presentation.
Prof, we love
Thank you.
you.
Thank you, Mom.
We love you, Prof. We love you.
So much.
Sit down.
Yeah.
Hope to see more of you.
Bye-bye, Prof.
Okay, yeah, bye. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you. Dr. Alonso, thank you. I joined late.
Bye.
Dr. Abiola Kudirat, this is your
Yes,
first
I've
webinar
been busy with my
after you become
corrections.
a doctor. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank
Because
you.
you became a doctor yesterday.
Mama,
Congratulations.
Mama Shokoto.
Yes,
Mama
thank you.
Shokoto.
That is
Congratulations.
thank you. God bless
Alonga, you
you.
didn't allow me ask my question.
Hey, yeah.
Madam Martinez, how are you? You can ask the question. I know we still have people here. What exactly you want to
Professor
ask?
Marin has responded, but she has responded to your question. Check the chat.
Oh, the chat. Yeah. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll see another time. Always.
All right.
Congratulations,
Yeah.
Dr. Kudirat Abiola. Congratulations.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.